Listen, if you shoot him, put 2 in his face. This gun is long, but it's not that powerful. So if you shoot him one time, it's not gonna kill him. And he said that to me like it was good advice and gave me a little pat on the shoulder. Like he just taught his son how to ask a girl to prom. I think I was 15 when I bought that gun. 15 or 16. New Holtville is changing all the time, and the more it changes, the more it stays the same. There are specific sections that are owned by certain groups of young men. And it's crazy that one small street, like a block, something that could be maybe 100 yards in length, can be owned so tightly that you could be afraid to go to that corner store if you're from another section. And this is all just a couple blocks. You can drive through the Ville probably within 4 to 5 minutes. And each section is so heavily guarded almost. Strange. It's like guerrilla warfare. It's like civil war, all within a tiny area. And sometimes these small sections or small factions are allies. Sometimes they get along. And then other times, they're beefing so hard with one another that if you go to a specific corner store that is in another person's area, there's a great chance that you'll be shot at or killed or stabbed or robbed. Where you get off at the bus stop is very important. You gotta know what streets or what area you can walk to. If you're from a specific area, you may have to take the longest way home just to walk all the way around to avoid another spot that you're not allowed to go into, where it's dangerous for you to go into. And then if you go further down the street up Dixwell, there's Yale University, where everyone has a Starbucks cup and a pea coat on. But inside the Ville, it's a different world. And I remember the terror on my mom's face all the time, and I remember the terror on my brother's face. And they would always say, I used to hear this all the time, all the different points of the day, Henry, come inside right now. Henry, come inside right now, at different points in the day. And I never knew how much danger I was escaping. I never knew people were being killed. I never knew people were being molested, like friends, family, people close to me, houses next door. I never knew that. And to a certain degree, my childhood was like a sanctuary in the middle of hell. Then at some point in time, your innocent world just crashes. It crashes around you. My teacher had proposed that my mother bring in some cups and some juice, some cupcakes and some juice and some chips, some snacks or whatever for this birthday party that she wanted my mom to throw for me. All the kids, whenever they had a birthday, their parents would come in and they'll bring in some candy or something for the kids. And it was kind of the norm. And she said, Henry, go tell your mom to bring in some cupcakes and everything for the next day. I'll go home. I ask my mom. Of course, she says the same sentence, honey, we can't afford it. So I go into class the next day when my teacher calls me up in front of her and the whole class is staring. It's dead quiet in the classroom. And I woke up with my head down because I'm already embarrassed. And the teacher says, what's wrong? Why didn't you bring the cupcakes? Why didn't you bring the juice? And I say, my mom said we couldn't afford it. And I'll never forget what this teacher said. This teacher looked at me and said, it's only cupcakes and juice. You can't afford that? In short, I was poor. And you never know you're poor until you compare it to somebody else. Like food stamps, I don't care what nobody say about food stamps, yo. It's the most embarrassing thing to walk into a line and swipe that card. I feel like, and this may just be me being paranoid, but I feel like the cashier kind of like gives you a side eye. Like, this nigga's on food stamps, you know what I'm saying? Okay. You didn't earn this, you know what I'm saying? You didn't deserve this. And all that made me angry. It made me angry to the point where I did not want to use food stamps. I didn't want to use my mom's car to go and buy nothing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to. I hated going to the grocery store with her if she was going to use the food stamps card. And I never said that to her, but it was embarrassing. And after a certain point, you start to lose it. Enough is enough. You reach a certain limit. You're wearing the same hand-me-downs every day up through 8th grade. If your brother's friends go to the same school as you and he wears a shirt one day and then the next day you're wearing a shirt he was wearing the day before, it becomes kind of hard to hide, and it becomes kind of hard for kids to miss. And you know what's crazy is that everyone else can live in the same projects with you. They could live in the same neighborhood with you, but for some reason, every time they walk to the bus stop, they look fresh. They still have a brand new jacket, they still have good shoes, they're dressed well, and you're not. And then you start to question, what am I doing differently? What am I missing? What am I lacking that they have? I always felt like other people loved me more than I loved myself. Every time someone would talk about me, I would be confused. People would say things and it's like, who are they talking about? Then every now and then, like a teacher would pull me aside and say something to me at the time, which was cryptic. They'd say, you know, Henry, you're very talented and we don't want you to throw that away. And my response would be like, cool, me neither. So, see you later. I didn't know what they were poking at. Some people wanted me to go into acting. People wanted me to, I had a teacher at Juilliard who was pushing for me to audition at Juilliard because of a summer theater program I did. And I had so many people saying, you should do this, you should do this. And my response was, I might. For some reason, I just didn't care. There were other things that were on my mind, stronger. There was so much more danger. There was the danger that I never knew was around started coming for me. My little brother texts me and says, yo, I just got robbed on our porch. I get up out of class, I rush down there, I get a gun from my boy, and I run down. We go around looking for this person because now he knows where I live. He's gonna come back. So then I call other people, we go start looking for him. And I go back to class the next day and the teacher's like, oh, well, you shouldn't just get up and come out of class like that in the middle of class. And I'm like, somebody pulled a gun on my brother. I don't really care about my English paper right now. It felt like everyone I knew was in danger all the time. If I left my post, who was gonna protect him? I don't know, it's easier to leave your post when you feel like everything's okay. If you feel like you leave your post and someone's gonna die, it's a scarier thought. Like, how many people will go to college if they thought that their sister or brother will get shot with them not being there? College wasn't as important. I didn't know what theater was for me at the time, actually. I don't think I knew it was important. I didn't know it was important to me. At that point in time, it was my fix. And what other people saw as my talent and as a bargaining card for success, I just saw as my fix. Everyone was going to college. Everyone was applying for colleges and discussing, oh, I'm going to Temple University. I'm going to NYU. Henry, where are you going? But when people would ask me where I was going, I had no idea. And that's because I had no idea who I wanted to be. I had two personalities that were supposed to be joined into one, but I was split. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I never did it because I thought I'd be a professional at it one day. I did it for myself. And then when everyone went to college, I had no direction. I didn't feel worthy. And I didn't feel like I deserved it. I felt like I deserved New Haven. my favorite book when I was in elementary school. I read this book called Night John about this slave who, you know what I'm saying, in his circumstances, would rebel against everyone around him because he would teach the slaves how to read and he would run and help them escape. And I wanted to be Night John so bad. You know, I wanted to be able to just rebel against everything that I should be. You know what I'm saying? Night John should be a slave. He shouldn't be able to read. He should listen to his masters. And I just wanted to rebel against that. I wanted to be the best person at where I was and lead them into the next phase. I wanted to be that so bad. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Renegade. That name was originally given to me by my brother, my little brother, Solomon. The name means to defect or to betray, to leave one group and become a soloist, or to leave one group and to join another. He originally gave me that name because I never wanted to be exactly like everyone. So then my little brother said to me, "So you're kind of like a renegade?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right." I had to find some type of way to name what I was doing positively. Sooner or later, though, that name began to mean something very different. I had this dream of this guy, this powerful guy with no face, chained in this room, locked up, with a chain and a skeleton key hanging around his neck. And this was the key to let himself free. But he sat inside this room and just cried and cried and cried. He had a key to let himself free, but he didn't. He was afraid to. Somehow I began to associate that person with renegade, kind of like my Jekyll and Hyde. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. Renegade was supposed to be the thing that wasn't afraid of the streets. He was supposed to be the thing that wasn't afraid of people doing him harm. The person that wasn't afraid to succeed. But instead, Renegade became a name for violence. He became a symbol for apathy. Apathy for life. And the more I said the name, the less I wanted to be Henry. The double life thing probably started once I became afraid of where I lived. If the thing that rules your neighborhood is fear, then you do well there. And you either do well at being afraid, or you do well at making other people afraid of you so that you have less people to fear. And at first, I did very well at being afraid. I did really well at being afraid. You know, I remember being at the bus stop one time and I was in like 5th grade. And I remember some kids saying, "Oh, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna fight you." And I did not want to fight. I didn't know how to fight. You know what I'm saying? In 5th grade, I was real skinny, awkward. My ears was huge. They're probably still a little big right now. But you know, I didn't know how to fight. So I remember trying to worm my way out of this and asking everybody, you know what I'm saying, "What do? I don't want to fight him. I don't want to fight him." And I remember somebody standing me up straight and saying, "Listen, you don't want niggas to think you're a pussy. If you don't want them to think that, then you have to fight him. We're on the one." And I remember coming to this realization, like, that there is no escape. There's no escape from it. If you want to escape, you have to make them afraid of you. I became slightly addicted to taking things from other people, even if it was just taking their dignity in a horribly violent way. When it came to me targeting people, I think, to me, my main enemy first was people who I thought were gonna put me in harm's way. Any person who that was a target, but mainly it was Black people. I mean, to be honest, a few Puerto Rican people, like it's New Haven. So the colors that separated people were mainly gang colors. That defined you almost as much as race did. We divided ourselves in our own little subculture. And that is how I was able to divide people in my mind. So I had enemies based upon their faction. And most of the time they were Black and Puerto Rican. The second enemy for me personally, I think this was a personal thing for me and a couple people who I knew, were people who were of a higher class than us. The thing about New Haven is New Haven can be broke on one side of the street. One side of the street, houses boarded up, naked babies running around, crack needles everywhere, liquor store and corner store, and a church for some reason on every corner, right? You go 10 minutes up the street, mansions. Why are there mansions if I live in a projects down the street from you? And you think you could walk through these projects and you're gonna be straight when you got a mansion? Okay, that's what made you my enemy right there, is you're gonna live life to the fullest right next to me when I'm in the projects? Really? That's what you're gonna do? So for me, that made them a target. And I didn't care what race you were. I didn't care. That's not what made life unfair. The thing that made life unfair was who had the power. And either you had power through a gun or you had power through cash. And if you had power through cash, I was a little more angry at you. So if I could use that same fear that was used on me, on you, then that's your fault. That's really what I thought. And if I saw weakness in other people that I once had in myself, it made me hate them. It made me hate them because I was weak at some point and I felt like it was my fault for being weak. So, I don't know. Don't be weak. It's your fault for being weak. You know, I remember being downtown a lot in high school and watching Yale students ride by on their bikes. And they'd be going from class to class, from restaurant to restaurant, enjoying life, laughing, smiling all the time, walking in front of traffic. And then no matter where we were, for some reason, us as kids, there'll be a group of my friends, there'd be like 10 of us. We were a problem. The police would come over and they wouldn't want us in a group. You gotta move here, you have to do this. This is school property. But Yaleys never had a problem. They were going to a great school. They had great clothes. They just were happy all the time. And I felt like it was something, I remember feeling like this is something that they didn't deserve. You didn't earn this. I remember feeling that, and I remember feeling angry. And then I started to catch a pattern. Whenever I would walk with my friends downtown, it'd be a group of 5, 10 of us, you know, wearing all black hoodies. And if they saw us coming, they would cross the street. And at first, I didn't really take notice to it. But after a while, I started to recognize this look in their eyes. It was this look of fear. It was this expression of fear. And for some reason, my power was greater than theirs at that moment. And these are the same people that are going to one of the top universities, and I'm more powerful than you right now because you're afraid of me. I was able to take their pride. One, just because of how I looked. If I could take your pride, you know, what else can I take? Not only can I take your pride, but I could take your bike. If I could take your bike, I could take your phone. If I could take your phone, I could take your cash. And if I could do that, then I'm more powerful than you. I have control now. And it's an addictive feeling. You don't have control over anything else in your life, but you have control over this person. What's funny is it's never actually about the money, because you can't take enough from someone to the point where you'd be able to live off of it. It's never about the money, it's about the control. You have to somehow make it so that you feel sane where you are, so that you feel like I'm in the best situation possible. I did that in school by getting good grades. I did that in the streets by inflicting fear when I needed to, where I needed to. And materialistically, I did it from taking from people. made me feel like I had control over my own situation. I remember another time where there was a kid downtown who had said something to one of my friends, and someone comes from behind him. One of my friends comes from behind, and I don't even know if this kid says something along the lines of, "Watch where you're going." And that was enough. That was enough challenge. One of my friends comes behind it and smacks this kid, like right hook to the right side of his face from behind. And the rest of us come in and just start unloading punches and kicks on this guy. And we feel powerful because we're able to make one person cower. And this was actually a kid that was pretty big. He wasn't a small kid. And he's on the ground, and we kick him, and we punch him, and in these moments, everything's happening so fast that you don't want to miss your chance to be a part of the event. You don't want to miss your chance to prove to other people that when something happens, when something goes down, you'll play your part. And inflicting pain on a stranger it can be thrilling and it can be exciting. Everyone around you is watching. You hear the crowd reacting. It's like you almost feel like a gladiator in a coliseum. Relating to Tybalt was probably one of the easiest characters I've ever played. I felt like he was me. He said some of the things that I would say, except in Shakespearean dialect, of course. He was me. Tybalt was angry and aggressive, but only out of pride, only out of this desire to have what you don't have and to go and get that at any cost. And I immediately saw the resemblance. I saw the similarities between myself and Tybalt, that we'd be willing to hurt other people and hurt ourselves to hold on to a piece of dignity or a piece of pride or a reputation. Something that I think Shakespeare's stories, something that they do is he talks about pain, I feel like, in such a way that I was able to relate to. He didn't sugarcoat anything. When I was able to translate it and understand the language, suddenly this dude was reading out my diaries, it sounded like, and he was speaking about things that everyone is going through and no one listens to. Then it stops being a play. He stops being a character. He starts being a reflection of your life. You focus on walking in their shoes and breathing in their shoes and feeling emotion from their perspective. If there's no other way to forget what you're going through, that's the way right there. Acting in front of hundreds, maybe thousands. Such a powerful classical piece with people who are considered the cream of the crop in the acting world. And me coming from co-op high school, coming from New Horville, it was surreal, man. I felt easily like the most important person on the planet. After Romeo and Juliet was over, I had so much idle time and I lost contact with Henry. I just had way too much time to be renegade. I felt like I didn't fully belong in a world where people thought I was a great actor or I was a great student because I didn't believe that about myself. I didn't want to go back to a world of fear and paranoia and violence. And I had no one to tell about it. I was looking to reach out to anybody. I just had to wait for the right person. And it had to be someone who wasn't proud of me on either side. It couldn't be someone who was proud of me in the streets, and it couldn't be someone who was proud of me in the world of theater or school or anything like that. I remember I met this girl, because it was always a girl who liked me, whatever. And I remember calling her, and her thought was, oh, I like Renegade. Oh, he's gonna call me, blah, blah, blah. So she's all happy and everything. And I remember calling her and talking to her for a few minutes. And I remember trying to vent to her, to tell her my situation. I remember trying to tell her, sometimes I don't want to live anymore. Sometimes I wish that all I could do is be on the stage. I'm afraid that people are trying to kill me. And I need help. And I never said that sentence before. I never said that to anybody. And this was a nobody girl. This was a nobody. But I had to reach out to someone. I said, and I need help. And I remember her reaction being, oh, okay, I gotta go. This is weird. You should call the police. I don't know, but I'll text you. And when a girl says that you already know what that means. She's not gonna text you. She's not gonna call you. That means leave me alone. Don't call me no more. You did something to weird me out. And I remember hanging up the phone and feeling so alone and feeling like I didn't belong in either world. And I remember going upstairs into my room, and I had kept a gun inside of a book bag that was inside of another bag that was inside of this box. And I remember going upstairs and taking a gun and staring at the barrel for a long time. And the way a gun trigger works is you pull it a little bit and all this power and fury unleashes all at once. And I remember debating this. Could this end anything? Could this help me belong in a better place? Because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And I did not like my life to the point where I wanted it to end. And I pushed the thought away and I put the gun back. And I didn't talk to anyone about that. But then I remember leaving and hoping that someone would kill me for some reason. And whenever there was a time where I thought somebody was gonna be doing something stupid, I went. Actually, in the wintertime, there's a term that everybody in New Haven anyway that they have for the wintertime. They call it grimy season. They call it grimy season because during those months when it starts to get cold and it starts to get dark early, everyone becomes a little bit more bitter. Everyone becomes a little more violent. The the chance of you getting robbed increases dramatically. The chance of someone doing a home invasion in your house increases dramatically. It's dark earlier. It's easier for people to do crimes, and you can feel the transition into grimy season. There was such an influx, like an increase in violence in New Orleans. I remember this one time we were walking up Shelton, and we ran into this old guy who we knew, who used to be really well known. He's this old man he had a funny voice, really raspy voice, and he had a cane all the time. And we asked him, like, yo, what's going on? Like, what happened? And he says, yo, these three kids, they came up, and I'm an old man, and they robbed me. And after I gave them everything I had, they still started beating me. They still started beating on me. And me and my friends, we were surprised. We're like, what? Because this is someone who no one really messes with. You know, he's an old guy. Everyone knows him, you know what I'm saying, around the neighborhood. And like, who would do that? And he was kind of telling us, he was like, yo, listen, I need to watch out. I need to be careful out here. And he kept warning us about that. As the violence increased in the Ville, I expected it for there always to be someone ready to attack me, someone ready to hurt me. And it's like every couple weeks or every few days, you hear a story about someone who you knew that got shot. You hear someone that you knew that got cornered and jumped and beat down by multiple people. You hear stories about, and these are innocent people. These are, or some of them are bangers, some of them were criminals. But it seems like everyone was a target at this point in time. Felt like a quiet night initially. It was cold, dry, like a typical winter night, real starry. I remember that. Bus ride wasn't but 4 minutes from downtown to get to my bus stop, which was Munson Street and Dixwell Ave. I usually get off right there. I hopped off, and my boy D-Easy was waiting for me, one of my little brother's friends. You know, nice kid, wasn't involved in anything crazy, not involved in any criminal activity. He was just a nice kid that I like to chill with. I hopped off the bus, and D-Easy's all happy to see me. You know what I'm saying? He's dancing at the bus stop, looking crazy. This was one of those kids that, no matter where he was at, he was always getting light all the time. I meet up with D-Easy, and he starts telling me about this day that he had. He starts telling me about this girl that broke his heart. And that's usually what we talk about, you know, girls that broke his heart. And during those first few steps down a block, it just felt like a normal night. We felt good, we felt safe. And then we spotted these 4 boys. And there's this certain dress that people have when you know that they're out robbing. It's like standard. It's a black hoodie, all black hoodie, hood up, a black ski mask, dark pants, and sometimes they have some gloves on. And when I see people wearing this outfit, I know that they're robbing. They are dressed in a certain way where no matter how you describe them, the police won't be able to narrow them down. I see these 4 people. They're probably maybe like 20, 30 feet in front of me. And I'm walking from Munson up to Division by Moe's Market. And I see them, and they're walking slow. I tap my boy D-Easy, and I say, yo, look, they robbing people. You know what I'm saying? They're juxing. So I say, yo, listen, let's just take this right over here. You know what I'm saying? I think it was Gibbs Street. So we take that right, and we start cutting down that block, and in my hopes to avoid them. I see these boys, they turn around, they look back, they see that we turned down Gibbs Street, and now we're not behind them. And they make an about face, you know what I'm saying? They make a straight U-turn and come back and start speed walking. They start increasing their speed. So I know now they're targeting us. And at this point in time, you know that there's gonna be one of 2 inevitables. You have to run away, or you have to face them and either deal with whatever harm they're gonna put towards you or fight them off. So I know that there's no way out of this. I start walking a little bit faster. And what's crazy is my house is not even, a 5-second, 10-second walk. I didn't stop at my house. I knew if I would have went to my house while these guys were behind me, they would have been able to know, they would have known where I lived. They would have known where my family lived. I didn't want to bring that danger to my family, to my house. So I keep walking down Shelton Avenue, and they start speed walking faster. At this point, it's D-Eazy's getting extremely nervous. And he starts tapping me saying, yo, listen, they're following us, man. We gotta run. And in my mind, I'm contemplating what to do. Because for me, running means I've been defeated. Running means that they've been able to instill fear in me. And they were able to take my pride. I know it sounds dumb and it doesn't sound like much, but that was the main thing. That was the most important thing to me. The most important thing to me was my dignity, was my pride, was my control over myself. Because I know D-Eazy isn't someone who wanted to live a life of crime. I know he was someone I didn't want to be involved in violence. I thought it would be unfair for me to turn around and face them and involve him in that. I wanted to face that harm alone. I wanted to face that danger alone. He didn't need that pride. He didn't need that. So I tell him, listen, run. I told him run. D-Eazy starts booking it fast down the street. I turn around and I start walking up towards these 4 kids that are all blacked out. The first thing I say, I open my arms and I say, yo, what's good? When you say, yo, what's good, that's the same thing as saying, whatever you are ready to do, let's get it done. If you're gonna try to stab me, if you're gonna try to fight me, if you're gonna walk past me, let me know your intentions right now because I'm willing to handle whatever you're gonna throw out at me. So they walk up to me, and the youngest one of the group, he's short, light skin. It looks like he got braids underneath his ski mask. He pulls out this shiny 9mm and puts it right on my stomach, point blank. And he says to me, yo, give me everything you got. At this point in time, I have another 2 choices to make. I can decide to let go of everything that I have, to release whatever, bullcrap cash I have, which is probably a few dollars, maybe my phone, and then with it, my pride. And I don't want to give up my pride. And considering what's been happening in the past few weeks, everyone who's gotten robbed has gotten beaten or shot anyway. Why would I give up my cash and my pride and then still take a beating? I know the possibility of me getting shot is a little high, but I test those limits. I push those limits. See, the thing about the kid who was holding the gun is his hand was noticeably shaking. When you hold a gun to somebody, when you hold any weapon to somebody, when you're standing there and it's your strength against their strength and you're trying to rob them, it's a scary moment. Everything is on the line. Your pride is on the line. Your self-esteem is on the line, really. You're trying to conquer another person mentally and emotionally. You're trying to overcome them through intimidation. And since I've done that to other people before, I didn't want someone to be able to do that to me. So my response to this kid is, I'm not giving you nothing. I don't got nothing for you. Now, me saying that, I'm challenging him. He tried to overcome me and I'm pushing back. When you do this, the levels, the risk continues to rise. He rises up here. He gave me, he put the gun on my stomach, gave me an ultimatum, give me everything you got, or I'm gonna shoot you. And I raise it here, I'm not giving you everything. I'm not giving you anything. So if you do want it, you'll have to kill me. You'll have to shoot me. The only way that ends is one of us win. And he has these, these 3 kids behind him that are all, egging him on. Yo, shoot him. Yo, shoot that nigga. Yo, shoot that nigga. And you can see in this kid's head, he's having a battle inside his mind. There's people behind him that are watching him, that are analyzing and critiquing his power, that are critiquing the control that he has over me, that are egging him on, that are pushing him on. And in his own mind, he is probably debating, because I'd be debating the same thing. What's worth it? If I shoot this guy, I will get dignity, I will get pride, I'll get this sense of control. But the risk, 1, you're taking somebody's life. 2, jail time possibly. And it shows how important pride is. It shows how important control is. If the benefit of getting pride is just as high as the risk, or as higher than the risk of jail time and of taking somebody's life, it's worth that. In that world, it's worth that. This verbal battle lasts maybe 5 seconds, but it feels like an eternity, because it's 2 lives clashing, 2 lives with the same struggle. And in the heat of this battle, in the heat of this conflict, I'm able, for a split second, I don't know if this was God giving me a moment or clearing my mind so that I can see this, so I can see beyond my primal instinct, my renegade mindset. But I was able to clearly see beyond this little world for a second. For a second, I was able to see beyond me versus him. And I was able to see beyond New Orleans. I was able to see beyond New Haven, Connecticut. And this is only for a few seconds. But I saw a lost child in this kid's eyes. I saw a human being that was lacking something. A human being that was lacking understanding. I saw a human being that was confused and hurt and angry. And I guess in that sense, I saw a mirror. I saw a mirror in his eyes. And it's at that point that I see the similarity between me and this young man. I see how we're both broken. We're both fighting for a control that we are lacking in our lives. I see how we're both the same. In that brief second. And then the gun went off. A lot of people ask me if I saw a white light. And the response that I give to people is, at that point in my life, there's no way I would have been seeing a white light at all. And that's just being honest. There would have been no white light coming from me. During the coma, I think the thing I remember most was my dad coming to visit me. See, like, I never seen my dad cry before this. And in a coma, everyone thought that I couldn't hear them, but I heard everything, to the point where I came back to people after I woke up and I told them what they said. My dad came in teary eyed and he said, "How you doing, H? You're gonna get out of here soon. Everything's gonna be fine." And then I remember him sniffling and saying, "I love you so much, son." I never felt closer to my dad than at that point in time. I couldn't hug him, I couldn't touch him, I couldn't tell him I heard him, but I never felt closer to my dad. And it's weird, it's the thing that allowed that to happen was a bullet. They changed my name from Henry Green to Stanley Galbraith. Because the kid who shot me was running around still, they thought that he might come into the hospital to finish me off. So they literally said, "We're gonna choose a name that sounds really white so that no one thinks it'll be you in the charts." During that entire time, the doctors were really just trying to figure out a way for me to stay alive. My femoral artery had been singed by the bullet the night of. And when they were doing surgery on me, it actually popped. It popped open. And the femoral artery is one of the much larger arteries in your body. So I lost so much blood. Actually, that night or those first 3 days when they were trying to save my life, I had actually flatlined 3 times. So 3 times total, my heart stopped. They told me that they gave me a total of, I think, 42 units of blood. So a unit of blood is like little IV bags of blood. So 42 units is enough to fill the body a couple of times. That's how much blood I lost. All the blood loss took a toll on my intestines because the blood from my femoral artery was coming up to make sure my intestines were, getting oxygen, getting life. And when the doctors that had opened me up, they told me later that they smelled something rotting. It smelled like garbage. And the thing that was rotting was actually my intestines. They were rotting inside my body. I had one doctor say, they actually walked up to my mom and they said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." Of course, I'm still alive, but they thought that I was gonna be gone. They started coming in and telling her, "Listen, you have to let go of your son." There was this one doctor who kept telling her that you have to let go. You can't keep holding on to him like this. And the sad thing is about to be over after I began learning who I was. But I wasn't gonna give up there. I remember the week when I had to learn how to sit up by myself. I felt like an infant. I didn't have the abdominal strength to be able to sit up because I've been laying down for months. Imagine when you first wake up from just sleeping overnight. When you first sit up, you're a little bit dizzy. Imagine laying down and sleeping for 2 to 3 months. The dizziness is unreal. I had to practice first sitting up a little bit for each day. I would sit up for maybe 5, 10 minutes a day just to get the strength to sit up. And they had to stand me up after a few weeks. And I took my first couple of steps that I didn't think I was gonna be able to take. Sooner or later, I was able to get myself around in a wheelchair. And at that point in time, they had moved me over to Gaylord Hospital. And here, I really started my rehabilitation. I had to learn how to get around the house again. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to get out of my bed and into a walker. So I came from being this powerful, strong, feared renegade to walking around with a walker with a colostomy bag. really sharp contrast, really humbling. I spent a couple months at Gaylord Hospital, and then I was finally taken home, still with no intestines, some intestines, enough to have a colostomy, but not enough to eat. So I was attached to this bag, which is called TPN, Total Parental Nutrition, I think is what TPN stands for. And it's this bag of white fluid that they hooked up. I had wires connected all over me. I had a tube for my colostomy bag. I had another tube that basically fed me. It was this huge white IV bag that gave me all the nutrition I needed. I had a tube for all my IV fluids because nothing I drank stayed down. Anything I drank came in and came out the colostomy bag. As a matter of fact, I would test this by drinking Kool-Aid. So I would take a red cup of Kool-Aid, even though red isn't a flavor, it's red Kool-Aid. I would drink it, and in 30 seconds, you'd see red start coming out of my colostomy bag. Anything I ate, I couldn't hide from anybody. I went to go visit the doctor to ask him how I was doing, how I was gonna get out of the situation, because at this point in time, this was how my life was going to be forever. Just medicine and IV bags and walking around the house in a walker. That was gonna be the reality of my life. And I remember being referred to this hospital, Georgetown University Hospital in Washington, D.C. So we took the train down there, and the doctor gave me a projection of how long I was gonna live. After taking a series of tests, they said, you probably have about 5 good years. They told me that there was a chance for me to get a transplant, an intestinal transplant, which is incredibly rare. You hear about heart transplants, liver transplants, and kidney transplants. Intestinal is weird. That's a strange and unique transplant. So they put me on the list, and the only thing I could do was wait. I waited, and I got stronger and stronger and healthier, despite what doctors thought might happen. Of course, I was still dying slowly, but my physical strength was coming back. And I had one false alarm, actually. One day they had called me and they said, hey, we have a transplant for you. So they put me in this private plane. We flew over. I got to the hospital. I got into my gown. They took all these tests. And then they walked into the room and told me, I'm sorry, but this transplant doesn't match you. Man, I flew back to New Haven, heartbroken. And this next time that I went to the hospital for unrelated reasons, I actually went because I had pancreatitis. I had an emergency in my stomach. That's what it was. I had pancreatitis. And I was flown down to DC. Actually, it was an ambulance drive the second time, which is a 6-hour drive, by the way, in an ambulance. Very, very uncomfortable. 6-hour drive, and I'm in DC. I'm talking to Devaya, trying to get her to fall in love with me. And then comes this doctor who says, listen, we have a transplant for you, and this one is a match. It was my chance to get my life back. Everything that the doctors told me were unlikely to happen was happening. My doctor told me that I had a 1 out of a 100% chance of surviving the gunshot wound and all the rest of the infections and everything that I survived from the wound. They said less than 1% would have been able to survive that. That's a miracle number. I woke up from that transplant weak, but with new hope. I got that transplant Friday the 13th. It was from a young boy who was 13 from Colorado named Jack. He was killed in an automobile accident. And I think I've always felt kind of guilty for that. Not for his death, but for the fact that An innocent person's death gave me second chance at life. And I certainly wasn't innocent. And his family wrote me afterwards. They didn't know my name. The hospital doesn't give out the name. But they wrote me and they told me how Jack was. They told me that he was a football player. He had a great personality. He was popular with everyone. That he was he was actually a flirt, his mother said. Irresistible to the ladies. And he had so much life in him. And she said that she feels so blessed that his death means that someone else that means that someone else can continue to live. And I keep that letter because for most of my life, big chunk of it at least, I felt like I deserved to die. But I can't die now. I can't give up because I'm continuing this kid's life. I'm continuing Jack's life. And even though I don't think it's fair that somebody like me is still living and someone like Jack is dead, I'm going to use the blessing that he's given me to carry on as much as possible, to make as big of a difference as I possibly can. But I always feel this slight guilt, and not only just for Jack, but I see a Facebook post, I see pins, I see tweets and news articles about someone else getting killed, shot almost every week. And I wonder why these kids died and I didn't. I'm alive because Jack, an innocent young kid, died. And I dealt with, I guess this is called survivor's guilt. But there's so many kids, there's so many people who die in the same situation you are. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a soldier. But when soldiers are in a battlefield and they're fighting towards something, and they're all on the same level of suffering, the same risks, and for some reason they come back and so many other people die, you question whether or not you were the right choice. Was I the right choice to be alive? I think even now, I'm trying to earn my life still. Deserve is a loaded word. I think I'm earning my life now. I don't think I deserve it. Deserve it, no. But I think it can be used. And I think that's how I can earn it. I think that's how I can honor Jack, because now I can honestly say that I am starting to love myself finally. And it's not because anyone else is proud of me. It's not because anyone else is applauding me. I heard someone say this to me before. They said, I think that the bullet saved your life. And when they said that, it made a lot of sense. Maybe it took this. Maybe this was necessary. Maybe this was needed for me to reach this point, for me to be able to effectively impact people. It pushes me to keep bettering myself. It pushes me to make my story transparent and open. Because this isn't something that's easy to talk about. I make it my mission to talk about. I mean, here, people ask me to lay out my biggest failures, my biggest moments of shame and guilt, my darkest secrets and sins. But if I know it's gonna help people, if I know it's worth something, then I'm willing to take that shame and I'm willing to take that embarrassment. I'm willing to take that uncomfortable spotlight. And I decided if I'm gonna change my life mentally, I'm gonna change my life spiritually, then I'm definitely gonna change my life physically. One of the things they said is he's always gonna be addicted to pain medicine. You're always gonna have neuropathy in your right foot. It's never gonna go away. They said that all the pain medicine that we give you might give him brain damage. He might have brain damage. He might not return mentally. All those things were wrong. I was taking approximately 60 pills a day. I was taking pain medicines. I took methadone, Dilaudid as another pain medicine, fentanyl patches. I had to take tacrolimus, or what's known as Prograf, Cellcept, prednisone, pantoprazole, calcitrol, some medicine I can't pronounce, some other medicine, it starts with an M, but it's literally, I don't know if the doctor gave me this to prank me, but this is the worst tasting medicine I've ever had. It looks like yellow paint. And I had to swallow it 2 times a day. And it is as bad as swallowing yellow paint. I used it to paint my name onto a piece of paper and it stayed. See, I have a 9mm bullet lodged in my sacrum, which is pretty much like my spine near my pelvis. And it's not going anywhere. It's lodged in that spot. They told me if they remove it, I'm probably gonna die. So they said, let's leave the bullet right there. Actually, I named the bullet. I forgot about this. I named the bullet Byron because I realized it was gonna be there for a long time, so I named it. Fun fact, my bullet's name is Byron. I had rehabilitation nurses come in and tell me, oh, I'm sorry, you're not gonna run anymore. You're not gonna be able to build muscle anymore. I had showed a picture of to the doctor of how I used to look, you know? And I had this great picture. I had a 6-pack and everything. And he said, oh, wow, you look great, but those days are over. I remember him saying that. Those days are over. Give it up. I went home and I started doing squats on the bed. Of course, I could only do about 5. No weight, could only do about 5. And I was determined to get back to where I was supposed to be, to exceed that. I was determined I was gonna get my life back in every aspect. And I had no control over some things. I couldn't control whose intestines I got or how well they were gonna react with me. And one of the few things I was able to control was my body. I was able to control my muscles. I was able to exercise as much as my body would allow. I think the body is the greatest manifestation of progress. You can take someone who has no muscle tone, no growth, no potential. In the same way you can take someone's life that has no potential, no talent. And if every day you push to get to where you want to be, you can get there. And every day that I'm able to get up and I'm able to lift, it reminds me that no matter where I am in my life, I can continue to make progress. I'm in control of how much progress I make. I don't knock any of the doctors for their estimations. It looked like 5 years. It looked like I wasn't gonna be able to run or lift weights. It looked like I wasn't gonna have my voice back. It looked like my mind wasn't gonna be right. It looked like I was gonna suffer from neuropathy forever. It looked like it. But this is one of the times where I'm grateful for, I suppose, the renegade side of me. The same side that's the most destructive in me is the side that sees no limitations. And whereas before that was fire and anger, now it sees no limitations in faith. It sees no limitations in miracle. It rebels even against that. I won't sprint. I won't be able to run. Why not? What happens if I try to do so? I won't be able to feel my toes again on my right foot. Well, let's see about that. I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna fight you on that. If I'm able to make progress with my body, I can make progress with anything. And Renegade knows that rules that were given to him, limitations, such as you won't be able to deadlift anymore, you won't be able to run, those rules don't matter. Those limitations don't matter. And I can rebel against those limitations. I don't have to live by them. I can be who I want to be, and I can get what I want to get, despite your limitations. So long as Henry Green is channeling Renegade, I think it's a good thing. Ever since I was shot and I was able to get my life back on track, I've made it a personal mission to go everywhere I possibly can and share my story and explain to as many people as possible that you do have this power and this talent inside of you, and you can use it for something great, and you can use it for something good, and that's what you should focus on doing. And I take the ugliest parts of my life, mainly the parts that I'm the most ashamed of, and I put it out there. I make it open, I make it transparent for everyone to see, and I explain my transition from being there to being where I am now. I think for myself, my identity is formed based upon the environment that I have to adapt to. Right now, I think that I'm at my most whole, but I've always been categorized in some way or another. You know, either I was Henry Green, or I was Renegade to somebody, or Stanley Galbraith, that name, or Stanley Galbraith, or in DC, I'm like the miracle patient. To people, I'm different things. And I think I've come to a place now where I understand that all of those different characters that other people see are me. And now I'm not gonna work to portray myself as one or the other. I think for the first time, ever since the coma, I've accepted that I'm all one. I'm all these people. And I'm going to not fight to try to be one or the other. And I'm gonna be all of myself everywhere I am. If I'm in New Haven, I'm not just gonna be Renegade. I'm also gonna be Henry Green. I'm probably never gonna be Stanley Galbraith anywhere. But I am all of these things. I'm all of these experiences. And it would be foolish of me to try to hide one, take one away, or bring one up and push one down. It's not sides of me. A lot of people think it's this side of you or that side of you. It's not sides of me. It's all me. It's all one person. And I'm finally whole. My life is all one life. When someone gets shot, everyone wants to believe that either they are innocent, or if it's their loved one, they want to believe that they're innocent. And it's because, especially when this is covered by a big news story, you're able to get a full picture of an individual. Many times when we get a picture of a victim or a criminal, when you get the picture of the criminal, the only side that you get, the only story that you get is their crime. Their crime and possibly a few negative characteristics that are meant to explain the crime. You know what I'm saying? For instance, for the shooter, they say, oh, he was gang affiliated and he shot him and ran. And that's all the information that we get about the shooter. But for myself And probably the reason why so many people feel compassionate towards my situation is that they were able to fully understand me afterwards. They were able to get stories from my family, stories from friends and people who I've worked with. They were able to get a full picture. I couldn't just be a criminal. They couldn't make a two-dimensional picture of me. And because of that, now I'm suddenly a victim instead of simply a black on black crime casualty. Now I'm a victim because you can put a face on it, you can put a personality on it. And the only thing that's different that I did with this shooter is I put a personality and I put a face and I put memories on him. So now he's a victim too. And not everyone will view things this way because we're all a little biased. I know that I'm both a saint and a sinner, as is anyone else. And I think that we have this natural tendency to paint someone either a saint or a sinner because then it's easier to hate or love them. It's easier to do that. It's harder to look at the complex picture of someone and see everything that's great about them, and then at the same time, see their mistakes and see their flaws. I think I have a unique situation where I was able to survive a situation where I would have died, and I probably would have been labeled as either a saint or a sinner. But I was able to survive and then explain my own story. I was able to paint a gray picture instead of a black and white picture, and we're all gray. The shooter is gray, the victim is gray. I guess my compassion for the shooter comes from, I think, honesty with myself. The only reason why you can really, really, truly hate someone is if you think you're nothing like them. If you don't understand them. But if I'm gonna be honest with myself, he's very similar to me. We both were really angry and frustrated with the situation that we were in. We both handled our anger and our frustration in the wrong way. I'm sure this kid grew up in the same type of environment that I did, where he realized that he didn't have the things that he wanted or the things that he felt as if he should have. Maybe he's lacking some type of love or pride in himself that he should naturally have or that someone should have instilled in him. So now he's going out and he's trying to find a way to be proud of himself. He's going out and he's trying to find a way to accept himself and to take back the things that he didn't have. And I did the same thing. And it would be nothing short of hypocritical for me to blame this kid or to make a monster out of him when I did the same thing. And I really wish I could just meet him and tell him that. I wish I could meet him and talk to him about everything that he's been through so that we could find out how to channel him in the right direction. I wish he knew he was forgiven. After a few years, I've narrowed down my thoughts of who the shooter might be. From what I know, he's in jail right now for something else. And, looking at where his life probably is right now, actually, all the people that I've heard may have shot me are in jail or have died. Whereas me, 5 years after the shooting, I have a full-time job. I'm about to graduate from college. I'm married with my own apartment, and I don't really think I'm the loser in this situation. I would love to shine some light onto him. If I could, and this is what I want. And I knew this initially. When I first said, I forgive him, I knew in my heart that I was gonna be able to run into him and have a conversation with him about this. I want to. I know that it's destiny. I know that the only way to start changing New Haven is to take steps like this. I want to meet with him and tell him to his face that I forgive him. And then I want to help him get his life on track. I want to personally guide him and help him to do that. I want to get therapy with him. I'm sure we both need therapy. Shooting somebody is probably as traumatic as getting shot. If I could meet him, I would love to be able to meet with him, talk with him, and share our story together. I think a shooter and his victim meeting together to forgive one another is more powerful than a victim jailing a shooter. I think it creates more change. It sounds weird, but I think it definitely does. The thing about New Haven, the curse about New Haven, and why the cycle of violence continues to be perpetuated is there's a nonstop tit for tat. Someone gets shot, someone over here gets angry, shoots the person who shot that person. Someone over here gets angry, shoots the person that shot that person, and it never stops until all family members are dead. Then their children do it, then their cousins do it, and their friends do it. The only way it stops is if a person forgives. And I want to start that. I can see now that without that bullet, without Byron the bullet, there's no way that I would have brought all these worlds into one place. The bullet saved me, man. Sometimes it's the worst things in life that bring the greatest and most profound change, necessary change. It's the climax of the plot. The climax of the plot makes you nervous. It sounds horrible, but it's needed for that happy ending. It's needed. It's hard to see that in the middle of the climax, of course. But it's needed.
The dude who wakes up with the gangster face calls me crying in the middle of the night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. He calls me bawling. And he just keeps repeating the same thing over and over. I'm like, yo, what's good? You okay? And he says, how did you do it? How did you do it, Henry? How did you do it? He keeps crying and asking that same question over and over. And he says, how did you forgive him? How did you change? I want to change. I want to change like you did. And out of all the things that I did that was hard for me, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to do everything over, really. I had to do everything over. I wasn't supposed to survive or nothing like that. I had to get my life back. You know what I'm saying? I had to try to get a professional life started. And out of everything that I had to fight and get, I think that was my greatest accomplishment, because I realized at that point in time, and I want y'all to remember this, whenever you're trying to stay good, whenever you're trying to continue to do something positive, people are watching you. And it's always the ones that are trying to clown you that are watching you. The ones that seem like they're hating are watching, and they're hoping that you'll continue being that good person, because you know what? You are their last hope in the world. You're the last shot of seeing something actually get out of here positive. And in that moment when I realized that I cracked that heart that had all this callus and this pain on it, when I realized I had broke that open, I think that was the greatest accomplishment I could have ever gotten, I could have ever received. Because I realized that at that point in time, the way I live my life makes a difference, an actual difference on other people. You know, I know a lot of people say, oh, you're making a difference, when I was able to see it. And that reminded me every day that I have to live my life like the people are watching me, because they are. And I think that was my greatest accomplishment. That's it. Thanks, y'all.